Let's go to the Metro because I think the Metro one has a lot of question marks. It's going to be fun.
All right, let's do it, man. Yeah. So when I was breaking down the Metropolitan Division and like I said, just organizing all these point totals, I titled this division the most evenly talented. And I'll just run through all the point totals here. Like it is just jam packed and it kind of mirrors what we saw in the East Division this past season. I believe it was called, because I know they changed the names of all the divisions, with COVID and all that, the North Division, the East Division, on and on, right? But it is jam-packed. So coming in at number one, DraftKings Sportsbook has the New York Islanders finishing atop the division with 99.5 points. Next up is Pittsburgh at 98.5. And then there is a three-way logjam. The Hurricanes, Capitals, and Rangers, all with the exact same over-under at 95.5 points. Then you have the Philadelphia Flyers at 94.5. The Devils at 90.5. So they have 7 of the 8 teams in this division, DraftKings Sportsbook, finishing with over 90 points. And then you have the Columbus Blue Jackets coming in at the bottom at 76.5. So, you know what? Based on these futures, it looks like anyone could win this Metropolitan Division.
Yeah,
like
seriously,
I don't think anyone would be surprised, even if you see like the Flyers finished first in this division. The Flyers had an unreal year a couple years ago. Last year was a disaster. Their goaltending was a mess. Defensively, they were a mess. But yeah, just based on these over-unders, like anything could happen in this division. So I guess we'll start at the top here, Lepore, with the Islanders coming off back-to-back Final Four appearances, 99.5 points. What's your take on that?
That's a tough one because like it's right in that number of like, yeah, you can totally see that happening and, up or down a bit. I don't say this often, man. Like I'm not that guy who's like, certain teams are built for the playoffs and these teams are built for the regular season. But if there's one example, it's the Islanders. So that being said, I think I'd go under, just saying like they're not like the best regular season team. And I will follow that up by saying if they finish with 96 points, I sure as hell don't want to play them in the first round, right? Because they'd scare the shit out of me. But on that point total, like I don't see the Islanders being like 100-point team.
Okay, and that's fair. And you know what? I'm going to disagree with you here.
Nice.
I actually think the Islanders, I would take the over in this spot. And again, like I don't think it's like, a complete smash the over, like this is a lock. But just going back to last season, they played at a 104-point pace over 56 games.
Okay.
The year before that, so that was the year where they had to do the return to play format. Most teams played, between 68 and 70 games. That season, based on my quick calculations, the Islanders played at a 96-point pace, but the year before that played at a 103-point pace in the last 82-game season. So I still think that this, I really like this team. I like Barry Trotz. I love their defensive structure. They have really solid goaltending. I'm going to take the over, but I think it's like barely going to hit. Like I see this team finishing with probably like 100 points, maybe 101 points.
Exactly.
But I would not be surprised one bit if they kind of take a step back. Like I still think they're going to make the playoffs, but if they take a step back and let's say they're a wild card team this year instead of, being a top 2 or 3 team in the division. And I know last year in the East Division, where did they finish? They finished in 4th place. Okay. But again, that East Division was like, it was a complete logjam. And, no one really had a read on who was going to emerge from that division. And it just so happens that the 4th seed Islanders ended up making it to the Final Four. But yeah, I would still take the over with them. How about Pittsburgh, Lepore? 98.5. I guess that's like, it's like, okay, that's about right with that team.
Yeah, again. I just love Sid so much, Bruno. 98.5. I'll go over. Screw it. I'll bet on my boy Sid and Pittsburgh kind of making a jump back. They've disappointed in the last few seasons, but I'll have some fun. I'll go over on the Penguins for sure.
Yeah, why the hell not? I think I'd take the over with them as well. They picked up Jeff Carter. He was a big addition for that team. last season, late in the year. He actually had a really good finish to the season. But I mean, yeah, they have question marks in net. But I think the biggest thing with Pittsburgh is like just stay healthy. If
Exactly.
Malkin can find a way to stay healthy, because that dude has been dealing with so many injuries the last number of years. If he can stay healthy, obviously, if Sid can stay healthy, Jake Gensel's been a beast for them recently. So
Great player. Great player.
I think that team, I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to bet against Sid, man. And again, even if they finish with like, even if they hit, it's not like this is the be all and end all if they hit, if they're under 98.5 points. But like, I still think this team is going to make the playoffs.
Like I find this division really hard because like they're all kind of in that number of like, 98 or 100 where like let's face it, that's like that could come down to like how well a team does in shootouts or how often or how early they clinch. So like their last 2-3 games are kind of half-assed, right? Stuff like that. So like those numbers of like 98, 99 for like the good teams is just kind of flip a coin.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like it's so razor thin, especially when you're, like you said, when you're dealing with shootouts and things like that. And games that just go into overtime or the shootout. Right. So that could really have a big effect on the standings, but I'll say over for Pittsburgh. What are your thoughts on some of these other teams here? I mean, we don't really need to talk about like Columbus and New Jersey, but like this logjam with Carolina, Washington, the Rangers, and the Flyers, all 95.5 or 94.5 point totals.
I'll take
which team do you think will finish with the most points of those four teams, Lepore?
You said the Rangers,
so
Caps,
Rangers, Capitals, Hurricanes, Carolina, and Flyers.
I would probably go with, if I had to guess, again, like you're betting, it's like, what's the projection? What could I see happening? I'd probably say the Rangers, because like what could happen? Like I could see the Rangers being like really good this year. And like, I don't think they're going to be way off of what that number is. You mentioned Philadelphia before, and going back to Dom's model projections for the season, funny. So the Islanders were what, like 99.5 with DraftKings? Yeah. Dom has them at 90 points.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he has really low on them.
Yeah. He's not a fan of the Islanders, and he has Philly at 100, Philly and New York at 100 points tied to lead the division. So like, I see those as possibilities. Like those teams could go off, have really good seasons. So I'd say it's between Philadelphia and New York for the question you asked me. And I'd probably give a little tip to the Rangers. Like, how do you see it?
Yeah. You know what? I like your Rangers call. I think like the easy thing to say is Carolina, just because they've been so good the last few seasons. Yeah. But I think the loss of Dougie Hamilton, who, if you've been listening to the show recently, I'm like the number one Dougie Hamilton fan in the entire world.
Yeah, Bruno's got Dougie Hamilton pajamas.
Oh, he's just the best, Dougie Hamilton. But no, I mean, that's a big loss. Like, obviously, he signed with the Rangers as a free agent. That's a huge loss for Carolina, and I think that knocks them down a little bit. And I just look at that Rangers team. They got some elite talent, man. Artemi Panarin, who a lot of people believe is an MVP candidate. He was an MVP candidate, I believe, a couple of years ago. Then you got Mika Zibanejad, who for the last 3 seasons has elevated his game to becoming a borderline elite player. Yeah, I mean, great player. Even a couple of seasons ago, Zibanejad led the NHL in goals per game. So you can say he's an elite player. And then you got Igor Shesterkin in net, who looks like one of the best young goalies in the league. So yeah, Lepore, I agree with you. I think
Fox, bro, like
Adam Fox, exactly, who just won the damn Norris Trophy. Like, they got some talent. So yeah, I would also lean Rangers in that conversation as well, in terms of picking a team of these 4. So like I said, Hurricanes, Capitals, Rangers, and Flyers. We're both in agreement that the Rangers will finish with the most points of all of those teams.
And so what was Carolina's?
Carolina 95.5, and the Rangers exact same 95.5.
Yeah, so kind of betting with those. Like, do you think they'll make the playoffs? It's kind of like the over under ish on what that one is. So
yeah, that division is going to be a dogfight all season long, it looks like. Any final thoughts on this division before we move on to the Western Conference?
Not really. One thing that I could kind of see is as far as betting goes, like how I was saying before with Ottawa, how like based on their point total, I can't see them being really bad. I could see that with Columbus. Like I could see Columbus being like historically bad. Just like I'm a believer in like the mood of an organization. And I just feel like right now Columbus is a dud. So I could just totally see like that negativity ripping through the locker room, games they've lost before the puck's been dropped. And I could see that season getting out of hand. So that's one I think I'd go the under.
Yeah, that team just seems like a mess right now. It just seems like no one wants to play for the Columbus Blue
It's just
Jackets.
negativity. Like, yeah, it's just so much negativity around all the time.
And even like the Patrick Laine situation, like he just seems like so unhappy.
Weird. It's so weird. Yeah. Like
it's just bizarre. It's like just such a brutal fit for him. And like I know Tortorella's gone now, but I don't know. Like that just, yeah, I got some really bad vibes about that Columbus team. Like I'm with you there, Lepore. Like I think that team could be very, very bad.
Yeah, I see them being bad. Yeah. So.
Especially in that division. Like I don't think there's any way this team like doesn't finish last in the Metro division.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet. I would agree with you, I'd say.